Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Bob Challenge of Necessary Destroy Media Narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Buddy, and of course his colleague, Peter Lavelle, also happens to be the founder of the Gaggle. So Peter, we obviously had a rather dramatic few days. We had a week in which one Hezbollah leader after another was assassinated. And then we had massive bombing by Israel of Beirut. And then all of this culminated in the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, the renowned leader of Hezbollah. And in fact, the Israeli killing machine has continued because even today they've killed another Hezbollah leader, Nabil Kaouk. Now Israel is obviously gloating, and Netanyahu is gloating. Israel's ardent fans are gloating. And I just want to show you, Peter, just to get a feel for the United States. Remember, the United States official position is, we had nothing to do with any of this. We didn't know anything. We didn't know about the pages. We didn't know about the walkie-talkies. We didn't know anything about killing of Nasrallah. Now, keep in mind, if that's the position of the United States, then you've made to look a right Charlie by Netanyahu, because you've been telling the world that you're negotiating a ceasefire. You're negotiating a ceasefire while the leader of the parties who is supposed to undertake the ceasefire is assassinated. So whichever, either you're a disgusting liar.
What's worse? That they knew or they didn't know? What's worse?
I don't know. In other words, either you're the most loathsome liar there is, or you're an idiot. And then you've been made to look like an idiot to the world.
Look, all of the all of the armaments and everything is being used in Gaza and in Lebanon. It's all American made. Maybe a sprinkle of British and a sprinkle of German, but for the most part, it's all American. Okay. And you don't know how these weapons are being used. Oh,
That's
okay.
Right.
All right.
That's right. These are bunker busters. So this was the statement that was issued by Biden, and again, the gloating tone is palpable. Again, we didn't know. We didn't know. So, but you rush out a statement, expressing your glee at this major escalation. And so he says, Hassan Nasrallah and the terrorist group he led, Hezbollah, were responsible for killing hundreds of Americans over a 4-decade reign of terror. So right away, the question arises, well, what exactly was the United States doing in Lebanon? I mean, Lebanon is here, United States is there. Why was the United States in Lebanon? I mean, why was it being targeted by Shia militia, other than the fact that it was there in Lebanon, essentially furthering the interests of Israel? And a lot of forces in Lebanon, Syria, Iran were not happy about America furthering the interests of Israel.
So George, where were the hundreds of Americans? Where were they killed?
It wasn't in Washington, D.C.
It wasn't in Washington, D.C. It wasn't in Washington State.
No.
It was in Lebanon.
It was in Lebanon.
Why were they there? Why were they there?
Why were they there? Exactly.
Of course. Has Lebanon ever been a national security threat to the United States?
No, not at all.
Lebanon in its best of days are a threat to itself. Okay, yes. In its best days.
That's right. But what was really disgusting, and I should really emphasize how disgusting the United States was, because they originally went into Lebanon to escort the PLO out of Lebanon. That was the deal that was struck with Israel. Israel will stop bombing if you take the PLO out and take them to Tunisia. And so they sent in their Marines and they escorted out the PLO fighters. Now, they left behind the women and children. And then these women and children, the Americans provided no protection for these women and children, within days massacred by these Falangist militia with the assistance of the Israeli forces. Americans were not there at all to provide any assistance to these women and children. Then they came back. Then the Americans came back after this ignominious performance, and then they started pushing for this creating an Israeli client state in Lebanon. Well, obviously, a lot of people are not going to just tolerate an Israeli client state in Lebanon.
Well, and of all countries, Lebanon is the really the Levant, the epicenter of the centuries-old Crusader tradition
Right.
of a colonial project. I mean, yeah, people they weren't happy to see another foreign army landing on
Right.
their shores. Okay.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And then his death from an Israeli airstrike is a measure of justice for his many victims, including thousands of Americans, Israeli, and Lebanese civilians. And let's, of course, again remember Hezbollah has been doing a lot of fighting against ISIS. Who hasn't been fighting ISIS? Well, let's see. The United States.
Israel.
Exactly. Israel. Yeah. But Hezbollah, like Soleimani, they've been doing a lot of fighting. I mean, they saved Syria from ISIS.
And also it shows the bias of Al Jazeera, because that's a real nasty sticking point with
Right.
them. It's that they were involved in the proxy war in Syria, and they were on the right side. They
That's
were on
right.
the good side, the good guy
The good
side.
guy side. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's so hard for them. It's so hard for them to get their head around that. It's really interesting when George and I obviously focus on major broadsheets and whatnot, where people are being informed or misinformed or ill-informed. But if you look at the media, even English language media in the Arab Muslim world, it's really nasty, nasty stuff. I mean,
That's
the sense we have a different decorum in English. They have a different decorum in Arabic and in the way they express themselves in English. But
yes.
it's really interesting. Mention Hezbollah, and I can tell you a lot about what someone thinks. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. No. No. That's exactly right. No, they have a very different style of expressing themselves. They don't quite have politically correct speech. Oh, you can't issue threats like that. Um, but so the United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and any other Iranian-supported terrorist groups. Now, again, whenever we hear this, Israel's right to defend itself, does Iran have a right to defend itself? Does Lebanon have a right to defend it? Does the Shia have a right to defend themselves?
Why did Hezbollah come into being? Why did Hamas come into being? Why did the Houthis come into being? To protect themselves from colonial projects,
Right.
and the major colonial project called Israel in the Middle East. So, I mean, they all, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, all came about because of self-defense.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly right. But I just can't take that. That always this Israel's right to defend itself. Well, so a right to defend yourself, apparently, that extends. You can do whatever you like, in the name of defending yourself. It's very strange. I mean, it's not recognized under domestic criminal law that you can do anything you like to defend yourself. You can't go, destroy somebody's house, kill their family, burn them alive. Oh, well, I was just defending myself.
Yeah,
But
or
yeah.
killing a child with a beeper, that's self-defense.
Yes, yes, exactly,
And,
exactly.
and another thing, George, here, I mean, and we could probably talk about it a little bit later, but it's always Iran supported.
Yes,
Well, the relationship that Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis have with Iran, they're all different. They're different types of engagement
right,
in different types of relationships. But one thing that is never said, but is obvious if you look at this, is that they have mutual interests. Okay. They may not have identical plans. I
right,
cannot see how they possibly
right,
could.
right.
Okay. I believe Iran was caught flat footed about the Hamas attack on Israel. I believe that. I believe that. Okay.
I believe that too. Yeah. Um, And then Biden says, just yesterday, I directed my Secretary of Defense to further enhance the defense posture of U.S. military forces in the Middle East region to deter aggression and reduce the risk of a broader regional war. So,
Yeah. Enhancing is de-escalation. Okay. Yeah.
that's it, exactly. That's the thing. So, you're escalating.
Help me, George, help me.
I can't because it makes no sense. There's no logic here at all. I mean, he's saying, well, enhance the defense posture. So in other words, if Iran responds to these provocations, then that's aggression. That's aggression, and then the United States will be engaged in a war with Iran. I mean, that's it. I mean, so you're putting these forces in there for what purpose, other than to be ready to fight Iran? And why is the fight against Iran? Because Israel has escalated things so recklessly, to the point, and we're going to talk about that in a bit, to the point when Iran really is up against it and is going to have to do something.
Yep.
But the Americans are on the hook for this.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we had nothing to do with it. We didn't have anything.
If you're bringing another aircraft carrier task group or whatever they call them into the Persian Gulf, that's not threatening Iran. If Iran reacts, that's aggression. It just is
That's right.
It blows your mind here. I mean, what we've seen over the last year, particularly, but we could go way back. I mean, Netanyahu's been around forever, and his sole goal is to make sure that there isn't a Palestinian state, and that eventually he wants, while he's still in power, and I want to talk about Netanyahu a little bit later. He wants his goal, his dream, his pony at Christmas is war with Iran, and the Americans fight it, and he's close to it. He's close to it.
I agree. And then he says, ultimately, our aim is to de-escalate. Just savor those words. Ultimately, our aim is to de-escalate. So we do everything to escalate. We send Israel, everything, the bunker busters, these bunker busters that killed Nasrallah. We send them everything they want. We send in our naval cruisers and battleships, aircraft carriers into the Gulf, into Mediterranean, but we are de-escalating. We're trying to. We just want peace. We're just a peace-loving nation.
George, I'm not going to say it now because I don't want to forget, and it's something you and I have mentioned in the past. If the Soviet Union was still around, this wouldn't be happening.
You're quite right. You're absolutely right.
Why do I say that, everyone? That is not to sing the praises of the Soviet Union. Far from it, okay? But it gave balance. And this is a result of this reckless interpretation and taking advantage of the unipolar moment, and which is essentially come to an end. But as George and I, with our really good friend Tariq said earlier today, everyone will be able to see it in a few hours, is that there's no, I think you said it, there's no major outside power that can intervene. That and if there was that intervention, then we're, get your tombstone made up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You're right. And I think with the Soviet Union, one has to separate two things, which is domestically, where I think the record is, in many ways negative, as opposed to foreign policy. Its foreign policy, I think, was quite positive, by creating a balance of power, by thwarting American ambitions, by supporting anti-imperialist movements. I mean, generally, it was a positive foreign policy record. So when you say, we miss the Soviet Union, yeah, we really miss it. We miss, a balancing force in the world.
And that anti-imperialist mission that had a global agenda was welcomed, overwhelmingly welcomed. But it didn't mean that they wanted to replicate the Soviet Union in their own. No, your communist thing is okay. Yeah, we're all right with that. Okay, we're doing it a little bit different, but we really like that you stand up to these imperialist powers and the new imperial power, the United States.
No, exactly right. In fact, a number of the most friendly states of the Soviet Union imprison their communists. I mean, they just outlaw the communists or just imprison, like NASA.
I shouldn't laugh, but that's true.
Yeah, I mean, NASA just imprisoned them, outlaw the Communist Party. Ultimately, our aim is to de-escalate the ongoing conflicts in both Gaza and Lebanon, in both through diplomatic means. We're always doing diplomacy. In Gaza, we have been pursuing a deal backed by the UN Security Council for a ceasefire and the release of hostages. See, we have been pursuing a deal. How long have they been pursuing this deal? I mean, I
Well,
kind of lost count now.
apparently, the Undertaker Blinken is pursuing it, but Netanyahu doesn't have any idea what he's doing.
Yeah,
And he,
no, that's right. He's just sort of
I
hanging
mean,
around.
when Blinken shows up, he tells him, "Go, okay, carry my briefcase. Let's go."
Yeah.
You are the lawyer after all.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, he's treated with utter contempt,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
totally justified. And then he says, in Lebanon, we have been negotiating a deal that would return people safely to their homes in Israel and southern Lebanon. So he actually boasts about this. We have been negotiating a deal that would return people safely to their homes in Israel and southern Lebanon. It just so happened that Israel just went on an absolute murderous rampage, killing off the leaders of the party that is supposed to be negotiating this deal with you.
Funny how
Because
that happens over and over again, George. Funny how that happens.
funny how that happened, and exactly they did the same thing with Gaza when they killed Naya, assassinated him. He was the political director of Hamas, so he was the one who was negotiating the deal, and then they killed him in
He had
Tehran.
nothing to do with October 7th.
Right, that's right, exactly. I mean, it's always breathtaking. I mean, we do this every day, and then you think this is just amazing. I mean, you're almost left speechless.
Yeah, but George, it will just go. It will be. This is all in the made broadsheets. It's all on the cable, and no one very. There'll be not one person that's going to push back. Not
Right.
one person.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
One person is going to
No,
push back.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, I don't know if you saw it. I mean, I didn't watch it because Piers Morgan is just turned into just like a clown show. So he had Aaron Mate on. God bless that guy's soul. It's truly wonderful, wonderful intellect. But it was just a dog and pony show, and just have everybody yelling at Aaron. Okay.
Who was on with Aaron?
Oh, I don't know. They were all rabid. I don't know.
Because I saw the one a
Yeah,
few
this was
days.
the second appearance. Okay.
Yes, yeah, but I saw the one the other day with Dershowitz and Rania Kalek, um, and Dershowitz was completely out of control, and Piers Morgan didn't control it. He was filibustering throughout.
One of
So
their favorite tactics is
it always is filibustering, and Piers Morgan made no attempt to stop him from filibustering. So it was Rania Kalek and Gideon Levy, and he filibustered Gideon Levy. I mean, he just wouldn't allow Gideon Levy to speak.
It's really interesting because Alan Dershowitz said to me once, one of the things that pains him most is disagreeing, debating on the opposite side of another Jew. Okay, I thought that was just a very interesting for him to say. It sounds kind of very exclusivist to me, but
Right.
if necessary, he will. Gideon Levy, I mean, around the world, every country has their national treasures. Well, Gideon Levy is an international treasure.
Right.
Okay. International treasure. What that man has gone through, like Norman Finkelstein, an entire life of being vilified.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, that's right.
anyway, keep supporting Trump. Okay. Keep supporting Trump.
Um, anyway, it's time for these deals to close, or deals to close, for the threats to Israel to be removed, and for the broader Middle East region to gain greater stability. And the threats to everybody else, that's all right. We can live with that. The threats to the existence of all the other peoples in the
Well, I
Middle
mean,
East.
essentially, this is giving a blessing to multiple genocides,
Right.
multiple simultaneous. That's what he means by uh, greater stability.
Yeah,
Okay, it'll
that's
just
right.
be just a hell of fewer people around. Okay,
That's right. That's right. And then I think the next slide will be Harris. This is Kamala Harris, the vice president. She also issued a statement. And she said Hassan Nasrallah was a terrorist with American blood on his hands. Across decades, his leadership of Hezbollah destabilized the Middle East and led to the killing of countless innocent people in Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and around the world. How many innocent people did the United States and Israel kill through their interventions? We're ongoing, the war in Syria, ongoing. So and then Israel. I mean, apparently everybody whom Israel kills are not innocent. So everyone else is innocent. That Hezbollah killed, but Israel doesn't kill anyone who's innocent. Today Hezbollah's victims have a measure of justice. So she's just echoing Biden here. I have an unwavering commitment to the security of Israel. They say this idiotic thing. Why? Israel is just it's the superpower in the region. There is no one who can rival Israel in the region. Why do they need unwavering commitment? It's the smaller, weaker powers that need unwavering commitment to security.
Everyone, it's obvious this so-called odious, unwavering commitment allows Israel never to make peace with its neighbors.
Exactly. I will always support Israel's right to defend itself. Whatever it does against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. And then President Biden and I do not want to see conflict in the Middle East escalate into a broader regional war.
Well, if you had a wavering commitment to Israel, we might be able to see a glimmer of hope. But when it's unwavering, that's impossible.
That's good. Very good point.
Well, how do you negotiate with an arsonist?
Right. That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. We have been working on a diplomatic solution along the Israel-Lebanon border so that people can safely return home on both sides of the border. Diplomacy remains the best path forward to protect civilians and achieve lasting stability in the region.
You have it in yellow because it's yellow journalism?
No, I did it in yellow just because it was so it was so striking. I just think that it's just mind-boggling. That you have the nerve to say this after Israel has gone on this murderous rampage, killed off the leadership of Hezbollah, and you're still doing it. Even today, they killed off someone else. And you say that, well, diplomacy is the best path forward. And then you say all this, and then you go on these Sunday talk shows, and they're all talking, well, what is American diplomacy in trouble at the moment? No, I think American diplomacy is, moving forward, at a very steady pace, and I think, Secretary Blinken is doing a very good job.
I'll tell you what the steady pace is, and I say this with great foreboding. The steady pace is the Gazaization of Lebanon.
Well, I think that's what we should now go on to, what happens now, because it seems the most likely is that Israel will invade Lebanon.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. You go first.
Okay. Right. I'm with a view to carving out a zone in the south, a kind of a demilitarized zone, basically denuded of population, so that will be part of that. Push anyone who's living there up in the north, much as they've done in Gaza, because if they want to move these people back into their homes in northern Israel, then this would be the most sensible policy. So I would think that the next step will be an invasion of Lebanon.
I just have really mixed feelings about that, because that is Hezbollah's strong suit. What we did learn here, and I think we should say it first before we continue on the about a potential ground invasion. George, just be really honest with you. I've been thinking about it a lot for the last 3 days. Is that Hezbollah, it wasn't what we thought it was, I guess.
No, I think it's very, very important to make that point. Absolutely. I think we were sold a bill of goods.
We were sold a bill of goods. Unless they kind of turn it around pretty quickly, which I don't see.
I don't see it. I can't see it. When you
we were sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
And I fell for it. So.
Yeah, we all did. I mean, we had years and years. We're told about this. They have the 100,000 missiles. If they unleash those missiles, the whole Israel's Iron Dome will be overwhelmed, and Israel's population will be wiped out. This is what they were telling us. How incredibly powerful Hezbollah was, and even at the moment when it was clear that Israel was targeting them after the pager attacks. I mean, you would have thought they would move quickly. Hey, get everybody out. Get them somewhere safe. Make Iran, Iraq somewhere safe. Obviously, Israel's coming after us, and yet they just waited around. Like sitting ducks. I mean, Nasrallah was
Literally,
there. I mean, it's like a sitting
literally,
duck.
literally.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to overreact, but I think because you said it right. We were sold a bill of goods because now that's becoming quite apparent to me. Then I have to kind of shed a lot of different other things. A deputy always steps in.
right,
They have all of these communication lines that are impregnable. Well, all of these things seem to not be true.
right.
Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, another thing that's happening, and Tariq mentioned it to us earlier, which I hadn't thought of, but I think he's absolutely right, is that because Lebanon is a very sectarian place. It's a very delicate place, okay? And one of the reasons why they've been able to keep the peace is that they know how bad things can go. The civil war was awful for that country, okay? And then you had the outside meddling of Israel to make it even worse. And then you have this kind of you know, Sergeant Schultz like quality American policy that at least Reagan had the smarts to get
to
out.
get out.
Okay,
He made that. He made
I'll
it
give
work
him that.
exactly.
I'll give him that.
He made
But
that cry cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but Tariq, he said to us earlier, and I think he's so right, is that they're going to be pushing different groups around to another groups of people. The deal, I've been to Lebanon a few times, and they have this deal, and it's unspoken. It's just completely 100% understood without saying a word. You stay here, we stay here. This is our part, this is your part. I'm not going to bother you in your part. You're not going to come and bother me in my part. We're separate. It's a
Right,
very separate place. Now people are being moved around, and
right.
that's going to cause a lot more instability. Now, I've been listening to news about, oh, they all come together. Oh, that Civil War just told us it's better for us to live sectarian
Right.
than anything else. So that's the Israelis are playing on that, doing again what they're doing in Gaza, pushing people out to push them there. Okay, then push them there and there. That's what we're seeing a repeat. So that's going to add to a lot more instability. And okay, now let's go to the land war, land invasion. That's seemingly to me, and a lot of things right now are unsure in my mind. That's to their advantage. The terrain doesn't work to Israel's advantage.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons why Hezbollah was able to throw them out in 2006. But if you have a command and control structure that is wobbly or dysfunctional, then it doesn't really matter because that's what they told us that they were best at.
Yes, right. That's right. It's very hard to see how they can fight effectively without command and control. I mean, they're in complete disarray, and I think then that means they won't be able to resist in any way effectively, and that's why if Israel was going to, this is the moment for Israel to make its move. I mean, it makes no sense for somebody like Netanyahu to wait around. Well, let's wait a couple of years before we do this, because in a couple of years, something might reemerge, some kind of a new resistance structure will reemerge. This is the time to make your move. If you want
Yeah,
security.
but I agree. I mean, that makes perfect political sense. Does it make perfect military sense? I think that's
Well,
open.
that's a good point. But in terms of military, I mean, all the talk now is, I mean, Finkelstein thinks that the war in Gaza is pretty much done. I think he's saying that Hamas is defeated. So maybe a time to switch, move your forces to the north
Well,
and
Finkelstein's right I saw the interview that you're referring to, and I hadn't thought about it the way he expressed it, but I very much think he's right in a certain
right,
way. Is that obviously Hamas is no threat to Israel right
right,
now? I mean, it probably won't be for a very, very long time, and the final outcome in Gaza is completely unknown, other than just more occupation and death. But see, that brings us to Lebanon. I mean, I can understand it politically because this is Israel's on a roll. They have an enormous internal strife. That's people are coming together a little bit more on that one. Obviously, the people that have loved ones that are held hostage in Gaza are not going to go along with this. But nonetheless, the body politic it's got its bearings back. Let's put it that way.
right.
Okay. But my problem is, George, is, and Yeah, I think go in and maybe destroy infrastructure, destroy military assets, but occupying it,
Well,
I
not the
don't.
whole. That's what I'm saying. They're not going to occupy the whole of it. I think it's just the
No, no, no.
southern region.
Even up to the Litani River, I'm
Yeah,
not
the
sure
Litani River. Yeah.
they want to do. I mean, I think that's the big question. I mean, because this will send another message of what they want. Everyone is they want to regain their sense of overwhelming deterrence and domination, and this would be a very meaningful way of doing it. Now, is it a smart military move? I'm not sure. Politically, they're going in for the kill, of
They,
course.
yeah, but I think look, it's hard to say ahead of time with the militarily, but if I was an Israeli general, I look at Lebanon and they're
No
now
better
in
time.
disarray.
No better time. No better
Yeah,
time.
exactly. They're in disarray. That's when you make your move. I mean, it's just to wait for until they recover. I mean, that would make no sense. And knowing somebody like Netanyahu, and he's now riding high because
There you
this
go.
coup.
That's what I
Yeah,
wanted to talk about. Yeah.
yeah, because this is a coup.
Everybody, George and I were right. Nobody else said it.
Yeah,
Everybody was counting him out, and
yeah.
George said, "I don't know. This
I
guy
don't
has
know. You
been
know,
around
not,
for a long
yeah.
time." No one else has said it, George.
Yeah,
We're the only
exactly, exactly. I was, oh, he's finished. This is, that's right, exactly. And we said, no, I don't think he is. I mean, the guy, as you said, he's been around. I remember when he was the Israel's ambassador to the UN. That was around 1990, at the time of the first Gulf War, and then he moved on back. So he's been really around for about 40 years. He's been at the top of Israeli politics. He's not going anywhere. There's no one. Various figures have emerged over the years. They've all kind of vanished.
Okay.
All
Well, it
these
was interesting.
rivals.
Very interesting news reports that in mainstream Israeli media they're referring to him again as Mr. Security, something that he lost
Yes.
after October 7th.
Yeah.
And as of 72 hours ago, he's got his mantle back, at least among some members of the electorate. So
but I think all of that. I think among most of the public, Israeli public, they think, hey, this was an amazing thing for him to pull off. We were all nervous about Hezbollah, and he just landed a knockout blow. I mean, it's he's riding high. He's the man of the hour. And then they say, look, I mean, Gaza. I mean, Hamas. Looks like it's on its last legs, or at least much diminished.
it's mortally damaged, that's for sure.
Exactly, I think so. Now, as far as what happens in Gaza, I mean, I mean, Israel can't run Gaza, and who's going to go in to run Gaza? Arab countries aren't going to go in there. Why would they do anything crazy? United
I
Nations is.
mean, that goes back to what I said earlier today, George, is that Israel's on a roll. There's
Yeah.
no denying that, okay? But it's only through the use of violence. Is the only thing that they have is more and more violence. Like that by its very nature is unstable, okay? What they obviously want is to subdue all of their neighbors, okay, and to have sway over the entire region. That's always been their goal with the Americans as their guardians, okay?
Right.
But just slaughter after slaughter after slaughter. We've seen this before. And, again, kind of looking at a bigger picture is that anti-colonialist resistance has a pretty good record.
Right.
Okay. So, um,
But it
yeah,
takes a long time. I mean, that's
it
a
takes a
long,
long
that's a
time. It's going
long-range
to be a
project.
lot of death. Yes, absolutely.
Um,
But, you know, the, I don't know. Like you, I'm sure going all weekend long, just thinking, what else were we told that doesn't hold water anymore? I think
Well, that's a
that's
that's a big one. And the other one is, of course, is Iran. The how formidable Iran has become, in that Iran has emerged as one of the great powers. But before we go on to that, I would just point out, Israel throughout its history has been a master at assassinations. I mean, it really is. If you look back and the Zionists and everything that they did, this is even before the creation of the state of Israel. They assassinated Lord Moyne. He was a government minister. There was the Count Bernadotte, the United Nations representative that they assassinated. The King David Hotel. 90 people were killed in the bombing of the King David Hotel. So
and
much
what
so.
did the British do?
This what?
What did the British do?
Exactly. What did the British do? But they got
No,
what they
but what
wanted.
did they do after that?
Well,
They,
They left. That's what I was going to say. That they got what they wanted. I mean, they wanted to get the British out of Palestine, and the British shortly thereafter gave up their mandate. That's all that Israel wanted, was for the British to give up their mandate. 90 people were killed. Israel, of course, lied about it after. Oh, we gave a warning. We gave advance warning. So, but nobody ever found any record of this warning that they gave. And of course, they didn't give a warning because the whole point of terrorism is to inflict a lot of pain. I mean, just blowing up an empty building, I mean, that's not going to do anything. I mean, you want to kill people in order to have an effect. And yeah, and these people, Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Shamir, who did all these things, for a long time they weren't allowed into Great Britain. I mean, because they killed so many Britons. But once they became government ministers, and then Begin became prime minister, then they were allowed into the country. I mean, I don't think it should ever have been allowed into the country. But I'm just saying that this has been Israel practice throughout its existence. I mean, this is the masters of this assassination. And it's very strange because other countries really don't do that. They don't really go around assassinating as a matter of policy. I mean, terrorists do that. Anarchists did that. But as a state policy of terror, of assassination, I mean, I think Israel, and to a certain extent, the United States, are the only ones who do this.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely true. There's that one exception, okay? That one exception. But George is right. I mean, we could spend hours and hours going through assassinations that the Israelis have been behind. They don't very rarely ever admit it, but then later, oh yeah, well, we did that one too. Okay. They come clean later, okay?
Yeah.
Particularly the terrorism that Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Rabin were behind. They actually kind of reveled in it later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. But I think going on to Iran, this has become an obsession of Israel and the Israel lobby. And I haven't really paid that much attention to it because, but I was in the same way I didn't really pay attention in the 1990s when they kept talking about we have to deal with Saddam Hussein. All these neocons were writing in the 1990s, we need to deal with Saddam, and I didn't take it very seriously. I thought, oh yeah, you got to write about something, so you got to write, we got to deal with Saddam Hussein, and then
And you
lo
need
and
an
behold,
enemy, and you need an enemy.
yeah, and lo and behold, they went ahead, they exploited 9/11 and to invade Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. I mean, they presented no evidence it had anything to do with 9/11, but they seized that opportunity. So now, again, I haven't taken seriously all the stories about, we got to deal with Iran. We have to address the Iran problem. I thought, yeah, this is just a
Yeah,
political
but
thing.
George, it goes back to what I said many times, many months ago. The ultimate solution to all their problems simultaneously. Really, the question we need to be asking right now, George has introduced it, but crushing the axis of resistance.
Yeah,
They're well on their way,
that's right.
well on their way of doing it.
Yes.
Okay. Hamas has gone. Hezbollah is huge, at the very best, a huge question mark.
Yeah.
The Houthis, well, that's just more of a principled
Yes.
resistance.
Yes,
Okay,
that's right. So it's
principle,
not
but it's
not
not something that
political.
the Israelis really fret very much. I mean, their trade or
Right.
international trade they have to fret about, but their security, no. And now George introduced the biggest card on the table, Iran. And what is Iran going to do? Well, everyone, let's be really frank. They haven't done much up to this point.
No, not much. And that has really only emboldened and encouraged Israel and the United States. And quite clearly, they have Iran in their crosshairs. They have this, and this was again in that same interview with Finkelstein. He said, every 2 years, Benny Morris writes and pens an op-ed in the New York Times or the New York Review of Books or some, major publication. Oh, we have to deal with Iran. And again, normally we're just, we don't take it seriously, but you have to take it seriously. Obviously, this is something that is being seriously discussed, seriously thought about, seriously planned to go after Iran.
Absolutely. I mean, because all of the pieces are falling into place. And again, this is the ultimate big picture. If you're decision makers in Tel Aviv, they're going to be saying, we have to move forward with this. We have to, because we're not going to find ourselves in this situation again. Maybe not for another generation.
Exactly. And that's so. And then you think, well, what they're going to do? I mean, I would think assassination would be an easy option on the table. They could start assassinating Iranian leaders. I mean, we have to ask the question, and we asked it at the time: was President Raisi's death, just really an
Was there
accident?
a pager on board?
Yes, exactly. Whoa, it was just an accident. Anytime any political leader dies in a accident, you really have to be very, very suspicious. I mean, I know people
Yeah,
die in accidents, but you always have to be very, very suspicious of.
something like that always puts me on edge because George and I is just a matter of principle and pride. Of course the Israeli. We never say that because we don't have
Right,
information.
right.
Okay, I mean I know a lot of other people did, and it's it emboldens you. You're some kind of cipher or something like that. But that's not the way we roll. But in retrospect,
Yeah,
given what we've seen, what's happened in Lebanon in the last week,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll bite. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and the new president seems to, for some reason, he's talking about re-entering the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which is the nuclear deal. I don't understand. I can't wrap my head around that. Why
Well,
would
I mean,
Iran be talking about that?
I, you know, I think we have to seriously assume that the Revolutionary Guard is going to take the fore right now. The president of Iran is, it's a powerful position, but
Right. No, I agree.
when it comes to
He's not the player.
security, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
he's the president of Iran is more like making sure the water works, people get their pensions paid, the streets are clean, okay, and then they do a little bit of the moral stuff. But when it comes to security,
that's
nah.
right. But now we get to the
Well, I
point.
mean, we had Revolutionary Guards generals killed in Lebanon, George.
With one of them was killed the other
Yeah,
day.
and
I think, yeah,
during the pager thing, there was the
yeah,
Iranian ambassador to Lebanon was injured.
right, right. Um, so now one can easily see Israel now launching plans to start assassinating Iranian leaders in the hope, I think, of provoking an Iranian attack on Israel. And then, of course, the United States steps in. I mean, we've seen what Biden says. Biden is making clear that the United States enters the war on behalf of Israel if Iran retaliates against Israel. So that's the plan. I mean, it's clear that that's what they're going to do here. Now,
Actually, hold that thought. Just the pure cynicism of it all. Here's a lame duck president, barely functioning with his faculties, and he's always had this fantasy of being the great savior of Israel, and now we have the stars are aligned. So he backs. Yeah, go ahead. This is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation thing, and then whoever's president next has to deal with this mess.
absolutely,
Okay.
it's just horrific.
I mean, this is pure Joe Biden. Okay,
That's
pure cynicism. This is one
yes,
of the worst human beings that have ever walked the planet. Everyone.
exactly. And we have to say, if we go back to 2020 and 2021 in the early days of the gaggle, we said this about Biden. We actually predicted it that Biden's record is one that it will be a disaster. It was obvious. We knew everything about him from his in the 80s, the 90s, when he was an obsessive about Yugoslavia. We knew this guy is going to be an absolute disaster. I mean, we couldn't have predicted it would be this bad, but we had a pretty
Well,
good idea it would be bad.
yeah, and particularly since the people he surrounded himself with, Victoria
Yeah.
Nuland, and Blinken, all of these people here, these are the most toxic mix you could get in the same room, and it happened.
Yep, that's right. That's right. But the thing is that if this happens, you have to worry about the future of Iran because Iran is a very it's a very diverse country. I mean, then they're by no means all Persians. They're the Balukis, they're Kurds, Azeris. So it's a very mixed country, and I have to suspect that Iran has been thoroughly infiltrated by the CIA and by Western intelligence services. I mean, the Iranians travel, where they travel, they must meet a lot of intelligence people, and they get recruited. So you have to worry about what would happen in a war. Whether
Yeah,
in
but
fact the
one of the
regime in
things
Tehran would survive.
one of the things you always have to keep in mind is that what is what is the most important what is the most important precept for the government of Iran? And it's the following: their survival of the revolution. And people, it's hard for people to kind of contextualize that, but that's how they think of themselves. This is the Islamic Republic of
Right.
Iran.
Right.
And the revolution, the most amazing thing about the Iranian Revolution is that it succeeded. Okay.
It succeeded. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
And they're not
surprisingly,
going
it
to,
did. Yeah. Yeah.
and for them, the success of the Islamic Republic is existential. And that's what makes this really, really dangerous. Okay.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. Um, and it's really is a matter of survival. And really, there's obviously people within Iran who will seize this opportunity to go to try to overthrow the regime in Tehran. Working with the Western intelligence services. When Dershowitz advocated the restoration of Pahlavi, you have to think there are plans to bring him back. I mean, I'm sure that this isn't just some harebrained idea of
I was just about to say that, George. That didn't come out of thin air.
exactly.
Didn't come out of thin air.
Uh,
No way. And
right.
considering the circle that Dershowitz travels in, this is most certainly has been mentioned.
Yeah,
Most certainly.
exactly. So
So,
I
I
mean,
mean, what should we be thinking, George? A a pager-like attack
mhm.
uh, starting this week. This
Yeah,
week.
yeah, 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 yeah,
No,
yeah.
because I think we really need to impress upon everyone here is that the path that Israel's taking is it's very focused, it's very dangerous, and it all has to work simultaneously. It's not going to be boom, boom, boom. No, it's going to be okay. Hamas has been neutralized, okay, but and I don't want to go into depth about the relationship between Iran and Hezbollah. I think a lot of that is overblown. They have mutual interests, but one is on its back. It's the best time is to hit the other one.
Okay.
Don't wait. Don't let them, recast, reshuffle the deck and all of that. I mean, there's got to be decision makers in Iran that are reeling right now.
Yeah. That no, absolutely, and I think that they have to be expecting something from Israel, and so it's a very serious situation now. In terms of what assistance can be provided to Iran, they need some serious air defense systems installed. The most advanced air defense systems that Russia
Well,
has. I
from
don't know
what
if
I
they have any to spare at the moment, but they need something.
Well, from what Alistair Crook, and I trust his judgment on many things, that I think it was in August, Russian air defense systems were being transferred. That's according to him and his sources here. I mean, it's something that's certainly top of mind, okay? But when you have this cascade effect right now, it's going to create this is a hair trigger that we're witnessing right now. Because of course, what do you think they're thinking in Iran? We're next and
Well, no,
now.
absolutely, and this is a global thing because if you take out Iran, then Russia and China become all more vulnerable because they say, yeah, okay, that's part of the triangle that's now been eliminated, and we're coming after you. I mean, this is we've got you in the crosshairs, and we're on a winning streak. Whatever we put our mind to, we succeed. So losing Iran would be a very serious issue for both Russia and China. They really need to step up their game, particularly China, which hasn't done too much heavy lifting in a long time, if ever. So they've got to do something
Yeah,
because that'll be a major blow if
China
Iran is
is
down.
China is a great power in the sense that it takes it. I don't want to say takes advantage. That's too strong, but what China does is it watches its adversaries go on a losing streak.
Right.
Okay, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. Okay, could probably throw in Ukraine for the time being. That elevates China, okay? But when China has to step up,
Right.
be heard,
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have benefited enormously from the mishaps of the U.S. and its allies. Okay, but China's never been proactively
No,
in
not at all. And
at
that's
the forefront
that's
of,
gonna
of pushing that change.
exactly. And I have the thing, if you're a Chinese leader, you think, yeah, they kind of got you in the crosshairs. They think that, they're going to deal with you. They're going to deal with the China problem down the road, and make sure that China is much diminished, that China cannot threaten the supremacy of the United States. That's the ultimate plan. But that's, down the road. But China has to think, what do you think is going on here? That this would taking out Iran and, the war in Ukraine. I mean, they are kind of connected. What do you think this is happening
Well,
here?
but also, George, I mean, we have to be careful here. Again, I want to go back to the absolute necessity, the rock solid principle that the revolution in Iran will survive. And if it's threatened, they will take a lot of people out with them. You have these fiefdoms around all through the Gulf. I mean, this place could burn and I mean the impact on the global economy could be immense. So, I agree with you 100%. Iran is going to be targeted. And if it starts losing, it could be its reaction could be not as focused as one would think. Okay. I mean,
But
like take the Middle East.
I mean, it's possible. But as with Hezbollah, it may just go the other way. I mean, Iran just may implode. I mean, there might just simply be, riots, uprisings, revolution within Iran. Iran will be just too preoccupied internally of trying to maintain
Well,
control.
George,
Iran has had serious protests over the years,
George,
which are difficult in suppressing.
because of what's happened in the last week, how can I disagree with you?
Right. No, I think so. I think that's why it's a very serious issue.
Yeah,
For
but what I'm just saying is that a change of power in Iran could be extremely dangerous,
yeah,
and also they've been prepared. I mean, one would obviously think that they're prepared for this, but then what happened to Hezbollah? I mean, that's what just blows my
yeah,
mind. It
exactly.
really does.
That's it. I mean, we were led to believe one thing, and it turns out to be completely, off the, off the scale. The same thing with Iran. I mean, we've been led to believe, Iran is now a great power, one of the major players in the world. But we've also had a lot of evidence that Iran isn't a great power. We can go through, the assassinations of the scientists that Iran never really responded to, their attempt to respond to the murder of these Iranian generals in the Damascus consulate was an ineffectual response. They still haven't responded to the murder of Ania in Tehran. And then, the other things, the Soleimani response was tepid. And then, they
And even kind of telegraphed.
and telegraphed. And then, and remember when they were out of fear that after they retaliated against the U.S. barracks in Iraq, they were afraid of an American attack, but they forgot to close the airspace. So remember, Iran just shot a missile and knocked out a civilian airliner out of the sky. I mean, it shows a level of unprepared. That doesn't look like you're ready for prime time
Well,
when you do things like that.
I think it's fair for me to summarize here. Um, what we all thought was true a week ago, it's better. We need to go back to the drawing board and really
Right,
try to figure out what we do know. Okay,
right,
we can go on, until the cows come home about different scenarios, but there's no denying that the deck is being reshuffled in a way that
right.
no one could imagine. No one.
Yep. No, I think so. I think so. And the repercussions are great because I think if Israel succeeds in redrawing the Middle East, then it's a very serious very serious change of power globally, because then Syria no longer has its allies. It has Russia, but it used to have Iran, used to have Hezbollah. Knock them out of the equation, and suddenly the government in Damascus looks again quite precarious. You can't rely entirely on Russia. Russia's nowhere near Syria, so it's a whole recasting of the Middle East, and so it's yeah, it's a very serious repercussions. And again, I think that the axis of whatever axis of resistance of the world really have to up their game, because this is
Well,
a
is
major
there?
development.
Yeah, but that's assuming there's still a game. I
Yeah,
mean, this is. I don't think I've been this kind of thoughtful in so long trying to understand the
yeah,
implications of what's going on right now because they're truly dramatic and they're truly dangerous here.
yeah.
Um, uh, Poor Zelensky, just like an afterthought for everybody these days.
That's right. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're gonna be following this. We don't know what's going to be. I have my doubts that Iran's going to do anything. I think Israel is the most likely to act first.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree.
yeah,
All right, I think this is one of the most unsettling podcasts we've ever
yeah,
made. Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what you thought you knew a week ago, think again, because I think that's what you need to do. All these pieties that we've been sermonized with don't really hold a whole lot of water right now. And it seems to me, just I'm almost done, okay? It seems to me that the people of Lebanon, they can see what's happened to Gaza and
yeah.
and it's coming to.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's a small country. They don't really have too much in way of resources to resist. So yeah, that's
Well, I saw an interview with one Lebanese resident. I don't know if it was in Beirut or not. I said, "What do you think the government should do?" And she said, "What do you mean there's no government?" Which is technically true. They don't have a government.
yeah, that's true.
All right, everybody. We'll be back in the saddle again tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
And you know what? Between now and when George and I reconvene, a lot's going to happen. Okay. A
that's true.
lot is going to
Yes,
happen.
that's right. Yeah,
All right,
exactly. So, yeah,
everybody.
live
This
streams.
is,
Yeah.
this is our Sunday wrap. We have a live stream tomorrow at 10.
10 a.m. Eastern time. So,
Okay, so
7 a.m. on the
you
Pacific.
set
So
you Silicon
exactly. You
Valley
get
folks.
your alarm clock,
Get one of
going.
those coffee makers that you have a timer in it, and you just hit 6 o'clock.
I've always wanted to have one of those.
I don't know. I'm a kind of a Luddite. I tried to. I'm slow. I'm slow. All right, everybody. This is the. I'm not repeating myself this time. This is the Gaggle with Peter and George, and we're on Locals. So please go to thegaggle.locals.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Right. So, and don't forget those angry hounds, well, those ferocious hounds who have strong jaws. They may be small, but their jaws are immensely strong. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, whip them out, dunk them in their tip jar. That means that means that would loosen their jaws. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve the technology, and maybe we can keep the dogs happy for a couple of hours at least. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.